That's better. Welcome back to the garage. Welcome back, everybody. Friday 25th of January. About 1:20 or so in the afternoon, off from work a little early again. Making up time during the week so I can come visit with good old Dorothy here. So my thing I'm going to get done right away here is work on this bonnet and get it in epoxy primer. I've got the epoxy inducing over there, but the bonnet's still a mess as far as the dust goes and everything like that. So I'm going to take care of that with some wax and grease remover, blow it off, wipe it down, all that kind of good stuff. Not a whole lot of exposed metal on here, so I'm not incredibly concerned about getting really good coverage on the epoxy, except in those spots which are easy to get to and easy to paint. But I still do intend to get 2 wet coats on here. But I did mix up about as much as I mixed up last time, so which is only about 8 ounces. So we'll see. I might be coming in a little bit short. Hopefully not. But again, I'll pay attention to those places that need to get covered more so than the places that are looking good so far. And then after that, I'm going to move over to the front of the body and start taking down some of that filler that I did a couple days ago. One thing that I wanted to point out that I really haven't had to concern myself with too much yet, but that I do here, is you have the raised ridge here on the wing. These are 2 separate pieces of metal that the bonnet kind of portion itself, I know I'm kind of close here, kind of hard for you to see. So you got the bonnet portion itself from this side in, and then these 2 pieces are spot welded together, and that kind of forms the wing itself. So you've got a seam in there. You've got this seam in here, which makes that separate piece, and connecting here, so all of this is one piece. Really got to be concerned with getting the little dust particles and everything out of there. So right before I wiped it all down, I took the air hose and really blew out inside of there and tried to blow out inside of these edges there. You don't want anything entrapped in there. Up to now, everything's been pretty much smooth and I haven't really had those problems, but I just wanted to point that out. You can also, I've wiped this down with wax and grease remover once. You can still see that it's dusty. So this will be at least one more application of wax and grease remover, if not 2, to get this guy clean. Started sanding down some of this filler up here. You can see how it just kind of fills in the little pits there. That's exactly what I was looking for. I did all this with the palm sander just because I don't really, I'm not looking for a perfectly straight contour here at all. I'm not concerned about the body work and stuff on this one. So some of the spots I couldn't reach, but for now the paint is ready to go. Bonnet's clean, so I'm going to get to painting 2 wet coats of epoxy on that guy. You may wonder why I'm doing that kind of at the beginning of the visit here. It's about 2 o'clock, and that's simply because you should let it sit overnight before you do anything else to it. And it looks like I'm coming back tomorrow, and I want to be able to put build primer on it, so I want to rather get it painted earlier rather than later in the visit. So I may be wearing my respirator for the rest of the day, but that'll be worth it, so I can have a full day working on it tomorrow. 2 wet coats, still having problems with dry spots. I really got to figure that out before I get the color, obviously. I think you might be able to see where the wet and the dry is there. And it's just, I can't see very well where my over spray pattern is, where my overlap, I should say, is, because I don't have adequate lighting in here, but I'm fixing that. And I got a little plan concocted to take care of that problem. I'll show you that when I get there. But otherwise, it doesn't look too bad. Happy with the way that it turned out for the most part. Don't see any obvious little problems in there, but it needs build problem. There's still some sandy scratches and everything, not what it looked like last time. All those seem to get filled over the work here. This will sit in here now overnight at least, and then tomorrow I'll look at doing some build primer on it and getting to sanding on that. For now though, what I've been working on is getting all the filler out of the hard spots in here, and I've got my angle grinder, not angle grinder, but die grinder I should say, and it's got one of those abrasive discs on it, but it's not sandpaper, it's just that fabric stuff, and I've got the gun turned way down. You kind of hear it's only running about 20 pounds, and I'm going into the little hard to reach areas and getting the top layer, I guess you could say, of the filler out of there, and then coming in with hand sandpaper, sanding it by hand underneath in those hard to reach areas. I don't want to dig too much out of the pits, So I've already done that in a couple spots where it needs some more filler in here, and probably just not putting it on too well in the first place. But otherwise, it's coming along okay. I'm happy with the way that it's turning out, I think. But it's going to be hard to really get the full brunt of what it looks like until I paint over all this stuff and it's all one color, and whether or not I can see the pits. I'm not going for perfection here. I'm not going to stress out over it too much. So, but that's what I'm working on. And then when I get this sanded and cleaned up, I'm just going to start. I think I'm going to pick a place and start kind of blocking. All right, moving along with this area. For all intents and purposes, I'm done with the initial sanding. This is going to take, I blocked this a little bit with 40 grit. This is going to take another layer here. I want to block a little bit more, but that's actually not too bad, surprisingly. This area here, though, this angle, if you remember right, I wanted to try to make it look like this a little bit. So it just needs to be curved a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I got a Sharpie here, and I'm just going to wrap a piece of 100 grit sandpaper across it and just use that as my circular dimension, for lack of a better way to put it. But otherwise, moving along. So some of the spot welds by Triumph are pretty obvious. You can see those divots in there. And I know Alain, in his GT6 restoration that he's doing right now, we're give or take within about the same phase. Up on the bulkhead here, he's gone back in and filled all those in. You can see a whole bunch of them there. Some of them are pretty sloppy, I guess you could say. But I am a purist, I guess, a little bit more, and I'm more concerned about what it looked like coming out of Coventry than what it looks like sitting in my driveway. So you can see these little holes here. When I did the filler for the pits, this was some spot welds that got filled in. So I'm going to dig that stuff out. When you get over here, however, I don't have spot welds because I did it with plug welds, so that kind of covered that up. So I'm going to have spot welds up at about this point, then I'm going to lose them, and then I'll pick them back up over here. So there'll be some non-factory correct stuff there. But just wanted to point that out, that some people choose to fill in the spot welds, which is perfectly fine, obviously, to each his own, but I'm leaving them divoted. For the most part up here, I've identified the areas that I want to hit with filler again. I'm going to hit this guy right here. Still, I can feel the pits pretty good. Hit this guy right here. Those pits are pretty good. There must have been a leak of some sort here. I'm not sure why this is pitted so bad. This hole right here is where the heater core comes out. So maybe it just kind of sat in there or something. I'm not quite sure. And then I got some little holes there from some spot welds and a little guy right there that I missed. But otherwise, for the most part, I'm happy with the way that everything is. I don't intend to build prime this at all here because I don't, like I said, I'm not really all that concerned about the flatness or anything like that. The detraction from that means that I've got to sand it really, really good, because the final thing I'm going to put on this before the color is epoxy. So I got to make sure that I've got it sanded down, no sanding scratches whatsoever, take it all the way out to 1600 or 600 wet, just like I'm going to do after the final build primer on every other panel that's external, to make sure that that it doesn't look like crap when I get color on it, even though there might be some pitting and general stuff like that. So what I'm going to do now, like I had mentioned, is I'm going to grab a block and just start blocking. I do have a couple spots that I didn't get any fiberglass filler off of that guy back there, that repair, and some of this stuff underneath here I didn't get all that, so I'll just take the sander there and hit those spots, and then revisit what I want to look at doing as far as the body work. So lots of work to do, especially on that other side with that piece of fender, but we'll see how it goes. All right, this side is blocked out. You can see the dark spots over there. Not horrible. Problem here is that access behind is horrible. That's what's horrible. On the brand new sill, I got that little spot right there, essentially right in the center of your frame. A couple of spots maybe below that, but I think that's just me not blocking it out. And then this area in here, and this is the side of the sill that I didn't do a really good job on. I wish I had this this decision back. So if you guys have any ideas on what to do there, a couple of my ideas is to jam some seam sealer in there. I got some caulking gum seam sealer left just to prevent some water intrusion, and then maybe fill over the entire thing and then sand the groove back in. I would like to keep the crease that you see there because that is factory, where the seam is visible on the factory. And I got a pretty good shot right here. This one, that'll be a little tricky. And then I didn't really do any looks down here, and I didn't do any looks down below that fender repair over there because I know I'm going to have to work that. Another thing that I noticed, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this either, is this is that repair that I did. If you remember, this was banged in pretty well. I've got a droopy ear here, I guess you could say, where you can see that instead of being flush, it knocked in pretty good over there. If you look at the other side, which you can kind of see there on the zoom, that's pretty flat. This is not flat here. So when I put the tail light up, you're going to have this huge gap in here, probably a good 1/4 inch or so. So I got to see what I can do about that. There's not really a whole good access back there. So I'm just going to kind of make an assessment here. I'm not sure if I'm going to start hammering dolly work or what. See what I can get to and see what I can't. And then take a look at starting the work on it. And before I leave today, I'm going to make up some filler to get it on that bulkhead over there. But for now, I'm going to stick over here and see what I can do. No matter how many times I get away with this, sometimes this stuff still just amazes me. So what I did is hammer off dolly again, using these cutouts back here as best as I could to jam the dolly in there and just press out on the low spots. Now a lot of these are like a hard ding, so I can feel the knock right there. You know, somebody's door or something like that. But if you remember what I showed you just a couple seconds ago, the gray area, the dark, the low was a lot bigger. So I would just press in the center of the ding, hammer around it, and it's seeming to work. Now I can't get into this at all. This is going to be a pain in the rear because I can't get down there. There's not the access hole right there that you can see is not really that wide. Can't really fit my hand down there. And if I drop a dolly in there, that I don't know that I can get that thing out. That's a dark corner down there. And then this area in here is inaccessible because of the fender well or the wheel arch and stuff. So there's not really any way I can get back in there. And again, you've only got maybe an inch or two of clearance between the inner wing here and the portion of the wheel arch. If you can, you really can't see that, but trust me that the wheel arch comes right up here. So that's either going to be filler or stud welder and or both. But I got a pretty good high spot right here that I can feel. So I got the shrinking disc. I remembered it this time, the shrinking disc out, and I'm going to give it a shrink and see if that works. I also started to work my way back here again, a pretty hard ding, but I've shrunk a lot of those up. It's going better than I thought it would, I'll tell you that. Guess I'm figuring out how to do this stuff a little bit. That's going to about do it for me for this evening, but I did get body filler on the spots that I wanted to get body filler on again. I hit the spots that I couldn't get to behind the firewall. I missed that huge spot right there. I should have filled that all in. Oh well. I'm probably going to block it out a little bit here before I actually go. I got about like 10 or 15 minutes before I need to get out of here, but I'm not going to film that. So I'll see you tomorrow, or for you, a couple seconds. Morning, everybody. About 8 o'clock on Saturday. Told you I'd be right back. I didn't get to blocking this stuff out yesterday, just this little spot back here. So I'm going to continue on with that. Again, I'm not going to show you that because you're probably sick of blocking. Get with that and then look at maybe doing build primer on the bonnet. I'm not sure in what order events are going to be today, but I'm here all day, so we'll get to work. Got most of this area blocked down. I had failed to put filler into here, so there's a big low spot there. So that hard edge that you can see there obviously is not going to feather out because there's a big low there. There's also some pretty good mess in here. I'm just going to put a skim of filler over that again and then block that down. You can see a real bad spot right there where that big low is. Down here where the repair are, I'm not going to worry about the repairs side of it yet. I'm just going to get the dents out of the wings and everything. One thing I did want to show you here. So I'd mentioned briefly yesterday about the taillight housing or flat part, whatever you want to call it, that's jacked up. So if you look on the driver's side here, you can see that the flat edge pretty much is pretty good all the way down there, and it touches at least both sides with no wobble. And if I do it over here, start at the top, that'll work. That'll work pretty much. And then I start getting down and it gets pretty bad. And then I get down here at the bottom and you can see how much of a gap I've got there. So I've got, that's going to be painful. I'm not too sure how I'm going to fix that yet. This whole edge here from that smack. So what my guess is that happened is that the dent or the hit or whatever you want to call it came in here, smacked into there, and drew this whole piece down and in, and I didn't really take that into account at all. So what I'm going to try to do, I think, like I had mentioned, is just do some spot stud welds in here and try to pull this whole thing out from the top, working my way down, and we'll see how that works. I'm not sure if I'm going to get lucky or not. Got the area cleaned up here. Just going to put one or two, I'm going to start with one and work my way down, studs in here and see what I can get out of this. I'm not real confident that this is going to work, because I think to pull this metal out, I think it's just going to be too much, the way that I'm going to try to work it anyway. So we'll see. Now another thing I'm trying here, if you can tell, is I want to try to keep on this, at least I think I do. I'm going to keep on the edge here and try to pull it, right? Because I'm trying to pull this way. If I keep it in the center or even towards this side, I'm going to pull more from here than I would from the edge, which is where it's collapsed. So I figure the closer I can get to where the damage is, the better results I'm going to get. I didn't do that here because it wasn't that far off up here. But as I work my way down, it's going to get worse. So I'm going to try to stay on the edge here to try to pull more from where the damage is. Alright, that didn't really help. This is one I don't know what I can do here. Maybe if I just continue, I know you can't really see it, but maybe if I just continue to pull out this side, which is still dinged in. I did put fiberglass over it for my repairs, but I wish, obviously, like I mentioned, another one of those choices, I wish I had gotten back, that I kind of realized this. And I didn't bring a tail light with me, so I can't tell how far off it is. I meant to grab one and I forgot. But obviously the straight edge is going to tell me. So maybe if I take this fiberglass back off in here and do a couple studs in here and pull out this way, maybe that'll lift that whole spot up. I guess I can give that a shot. Alright, so cleaning it up here, I don't think I'm going to get any motion out of this. So I'm going to steal a trick out of Chef Tush's book. If you've been watching, he's working on his TR250, and he's got a big problem. He had a big problem where he was trying to fit his backlight. Got the word right for you there, Chef. Trying to fit his backlight, and it wouldn't fit flush. So he made a slice in the up near the rear wing and the sail plate there, and essentially lifted it up and then put the metal in there. So I think what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to kind of do it here, and it's kind of a brave choice maybe, is just essentially make a cut in the metal right on the seam here, and then try to separate it, obviously. And as I work my way down, take the lower portions of the plate here, the flat portion, and bend it up and bring it flat again. This hard crease here is kind of lost from the work and everything, so I got to kind of recreate that hard crease there. But anyway, cut right on that seam, bring all this out, flatten it up, and then look at what I've got for a gap, which is going to be pretty big down here, and cut a really small piece of metal and do some welding and get that filled in between the combination of weld metal and a patch. So I think I'm going to go down that road and just probably start my cut up here. If you can see that, I'm almost off camera, right about where that first stud is, and work my way all the way down to the bottom there, and then flatten that out and try that way. So we'll see. Wish me luck on this one. So we'll see about where the flatness starts to come out of it. Right about there, so looking at the straight edge, it starts to lose it, so right about there, all the way to the bottom, obviously. So I'm just going to cut, again, right on the line here, right as close to that seam as I can get, I wish I had my Dremel. It's got a little bit of a thinner cutting wheel, but I don't wish it so much that I'm afraid I'm going to mess something up. Alright, so I start with the flat edge and just kind of work my way down here. Starts right up at the top here. And I'm just going to stick the screwdriver in and kind of twist it. And just pry. Stick the screwdriver in and just twist. I'm right in your way. Trust me. Stick the screwdriver in and just twist it. Just to try to force this out. The other problem I'm going to have is trying to keep this whole entire thing flat because it's definitely bent. Trying to straighten that back up, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to do that. Especially as I get down to the bottom here. That's be better if I can get in with something maybe and push that out, because I'm going to start, if I use this to pry off of, I'm going to start to deform that too. Let me see if I can come up with a better idea here. Instead of prying off that bottom piece, just use the needle nose here to kind of try to flatten me out. That's working better. Making a difference already. It's going to open up my gap pretty good though. Thing with the needle nose, it's a very small contact point, right? I would really like to have a real flat. So when I get in there, I can grab it, bend the whole thing, but I'm just going to have to kind of deal with that. Alright, so there's the light. There's the gap, so it's pretty big. But if you look on my straight edge, hopefully the shadow's not too bad here. You can see that I pretty much got that all taken care of for the most part. It sits pretty flat all the way down. I also have a sunken spot now here, but I'm just going to grab the stud puller, put one about here and one over here, and just kind of pull that out and try to make it look like it's going to fit in smooth. But what I'm not going to do today is I'm not going to weld that back up, because I want to get a tail light over here and put it on there and make sure that it's good before I recommit to welding, because I think once I start to repair this, it's pretty much going to be a done deal, one and done. So I'm not going to attempt to weld that up today. So I'll grab that tail light for the next visit. But I will get the studs in there and get that pulled out and see if I can flush that up a little bit. Alright, so I think that's good enough for now. Like I said, I'm going to grab the tail light before I make a final decision here and weld this back up. But I got this somewhat flushed in. There's still some waviness and everything in it that'll need some work. But I'm going to move on now and look at doing the blocking out of the new filler that I just put on there. And then going from there. Blocked all this stuff out. I had some high spots that I took the shrinking disc to. There's still some imperfections in here, but they're pretty subtle. I'm not so sure that it's not going to be good for epoxy and then build primer. So for now anyway, I'm done with that wing, especially since I need to come back and obviously fix all that taillight stuff. I think I'm also calling this bulkhead good up here. I had a couple of final spots that I had forgotten about are done. I got this corner filled in there. That's pretty flush. Not too concerned. Again, this is not my big deal here, and this is okay. I got a little bit of a bulge here, but I'm not going to again worry about it too much. It's a little bit unflat, but good enough for what I'm looking for. So that's all good. And then going to just continue on. I got to grab a bite to eat, and then I'm going to get the bonnet, I think, in build primer. Got the build primer mixed up there, about 9 ounces or so. That should be enough for 2 coats based on my lessons learned from last time where I mixed up way too much. 3 coats of build primer. A couple of the worrisome spots that I saw, some sanding scratches, and some other places where the filler may not have gotten perfectly leveled seem to have filled in. I don't know that they'll stay that way when I block it. Hopefully they will. But yeah, so what's next with this here is to block it out, do a final check on it, maybe hit it with a little bit more glazing putty if I have to, but hopefully not. And then I'll be ready to get it flipped over. And if you remember, I haven't touched the underneath of it with regards to paint yet. I don't intend to really do any body work under there, obviously, but get it flipped over and get the bottom in epoxy. So that's where she stands. So one of my viewers, Cheryl Gordon and Tony, asked for some before and after pictures of the bonnet here now that it's almost done. So I'm going to try to give them to you right now. Alright everybody, that's it for me for the weekend. Thanks so much for watching, liking, and subscribing. Again, looking for help on that one rocker panel or sill transition down there that I didn't do so good of a job of forever ago when I replaced them. So if you have any comments or suggestions on that, I'd really appreciate it below. Otherwise, have a good rest of your weekend. Off to a basketball game. Take care. Cheers.